Billy Bremner.
He was known variously as the Wee Man, 10 Stone of Barbed Wire, and simply King Billy. Captain of Leeds United, he epitomised the graft and dedication that made an ordinary English club side into one of the best teams Europe has ever seen. Tonight on Yorkshire Television, we pay our special tribute to Billy Bremner. Billy was, by anybody's reckoning, one of the great players of the modern era. He played more than 50 times for Scotland, who of course have qualified for next year's World Cup finals. They'll play Brazil in the tournament's first game. Now, in tribute to Billy, Scotland's manager Craig Brown said, if we had 11 Billy Bremners playing against Brazil, we would not lose that game. Well, tonight we've brought together some of the great Leeds United team which Billy Bremner led so memorably. We'll be talking to those here in the studio, and later in the show we'll be talking to many others who couldn't be here tonight. First, Alan Clark. Billy's death has obviously shocked us all. What did he mean to you as a captain and as a friend?
As a captain, Billy led by example. I mean, his performance, I mean, he was a very consistent player. Can't remember him ever having a bad match, so he led by example as a captain and as a teammate. As a friend, I think especially to me, a very special friend to me. As a lot of people will tell you, I mean, we literally went everywhere together, and as a group of players, like with the team at that time, we would go out playing in golf tournaments, and we go to functions, attend them, and I always pick Billy up, and as the lads will tell you, Billy and I always arrive to functions or golf tournaments, everywhere we're invited, together. And I found it very strange this evening, arriving at Yorkshire Television Studios without Billy alongside me. And I've still find it very hard to accept that he's still no longer with us.
Thanks so much for the moment, Alan. Well, we'll be talking to Billy's teammates later. There'll also be tributes from some of the big names of the modern game, including Alex Ferguson, George Graham and Ron Atkinson. But first, let's look back on the life of Billy Bremner. The team that was feared across Britain and the world, designed by Don Revie, led fearlessly by Billy Bremner. Billy's motto, and a plaque above his dressing room coat peg, was "Keep fighting." At only 5'5" and 10 stone, Bremner was living proof that football's a game where skill and tenacity can overcome an apparent lack of physical presence. His philosophy was simple.
I think team spirit is a big factor. The same way any team that gets success, they've got to have great team spirit, and we've got it here. It's been installed in us from when we were ground staff boys. We were all brought up together in the ground staff. I think this is a big factor here.
Billy Bremner was born in Stirling in Scotland in 1942. He was a Celtic fan, but the Glasgow Giants missed out on his signature. He came to Leeds to make his debut in 1960. The club had been in football's doldrums for decades until the arrival of Don Revie galvanised their fortunes. They were runners-up in the FA Cup in 1965. 3 years later, they won the League Cup.
The first major prize for a Yorkshire side in 33 years.
Occasionally, Bremner's temperament was as fiery as his famous red hair, though he always claimed he was never a dirty player.
The reason I was fiery is if I seen someone kick the opposition, kick my own players, then I got a bit upset about it, you know. So there was two sides doing the kicking, like, you know.
Nevertheless, Leeds' uncompromising attitude, will to win and sheer professionalism earned them as many enemies as friends. And as Billy remembered years later, it was that League Cup final in 1968 that did as much as any other game to establish that reputation.
There was a couple of ugly incidents on I don't think anybody looking back on it really relishes looking at it again. But that shows you how competitive the game was in our day. We never really bothered about any football team we went out to play against. They used to have vendettas against us, whether they disliked us intensely, because we were probably the team to beat of that era. And so consequently, wherever you're going to go, people are going to roll their sleeves up that wee bit more when they're playing you. But the second half, like you say, there was an incident with Gary, and I think he followed through as Gary came out with the ball, and it started a wee skirmish again, and that. But that was part and parcel of the game.
And whatever anyone thought of Leeds and Bremner, they demanded respect, and they got it, even at Liverpool, where in 1969 they clinched their first league title.
Billy Bremner took our team when we won the championship to the Leeds supporters, about 10,000 of them on the left-hand side of the ground, behind the goal. Then he brought them back to me, and I said, Bill, take them to the Kop. Oh, I don't fancy that, boss. I said, go on, take them. So he walked the team, and I can see them walking now towards the Kop, and the Kop, 27,000, went deathly silent. And they let him get within 6 yards with the team of the Kop. Then they all started champions, and they wouldn't let the players off the pitch for 7 minutes.
That and the 72 Cup final against Arsenal were possibly the greatest moments in a glittering career.
And Clark going in, and Alan Clark has put Leeds ahead. In centenary year, the cup goes to Billy Bremner and Leeds United.
Whenever a team's going through a patch like you are, then everybody's got to take responsibility.
Of course there were disappointments. 5 times they were runners-up in the league before they won it a second time in 1974. Don Revie's swan song.
In the world, I want you 10 foot tall when you go out there today. Because always remember, there's nobody in the world as fit as you or better than you ability-wise and knowledge-wise. And you've been playing European football and championship races and FA Cup finals so long that today we can't afford to drop any points. We've got to win all 4 home games and hope we collect 3 or 4 points away from home, and I think the championship's wrapped up.
Bremner also graced the international stage. He played 54 times for Scotland. While on their European travels, United won the Fairs Cup twice, although the big prize of the European Cup cruelly eluded them. He finally left United in 1975 for Hull, and then in 78 joined Doncaster as player-manager. But Leeds, by now relegated to the second division, called him back again. In his 3-year spell, he took them to the verge of promotion back to the first division and to an FA Cup semi-final.
Rennie, goal! David Rennie!
When that finally ended with his sacking in 1988, typically he couldn't bring himself to be bitter towards the club that he'd loved for so long.
I don't feel any bitterness. The chairman's made the decision, and I've got to respect and uphold that decision.
Would you consider going abroad if the right offer came along?
No, I don't like abroad. I mean, I'm abroad now, I'm down for Scotland, isn't it?
Sure enough, he went to Doncaster for a second spell, and he remained true to the philosophy that guided his career.
Football's not all about just the skill factor, it's about your makeup, whether you're determined enough or whether you've got enough passion for the game or whether you've got a greater desire in opposition to win games.
His management career ended in 1991. Subsequently, he made a name for himself on the celebrity circuit. But it's as a player, one of the best in the modern game, and as a truly inspirational captain, that he'll always be remembered.
Bremner in the clear. Bremner, a goal! What a magnificent goal by Bremner!
Well, Bobby Collins, let's go all the way back to the start of his career. You're a fellow Scot, a fellow midfield player, out of the same mould, everybody says, and yet you're regarded as a father figure to him. Is that how you see yourself?
Well, as I said in the paper, no, not exactly like that, but Billy was similar to myself, and we all know what kind of marvellous player he was. But what he did for me was he could make me laugh, make me slightly happy, you know what I mean? And this was away from the game, because every time I would be with him, he was very jovial, you know.
Did you ever have any doubts that he would take over as captain from you?
Well, I mean, it was only right that Billy was going to be captain, I would say. But I mean, these things just happen. He had everything to be a captain, in which he became a great captain. And of course, we all know he was a marvellous player, so...
Paul Rainey, talk about passion for the game. You were with him from very early on, 1963. What about his passion for the game?
Passion was unbelievable. The first thing, though, I must say, was watching Billy when I was on the terraces. That's the first recollection. He was a young lad then. And then getting on to Leeds, you learn so much from a player like Billy. Super, unbelievable player, and a great leader. And you learn from people like that.